All right, my official prediction for Kevin Holland versus Kyle Daukaus. And I'll tell you this, I'm going with Kevin Holland, guys. But hear me out, because more than the outcome of this fight, for me as a fan, I want to see what changes have been made, because Kevin Holland promised us changes. Kevin Holland has one problem as I see it. I think he's a very good fighter, and I think he's got good natural attributes. His length, by example, his calmness, by example, and he will use antics within the ring where he's talking to his opponent and he's saying things that in a pandemic, when there's no crowd and the camera's picking up, can be viewed as disrespectful. It can be viewed as unsportsmanlike. It can even be viewed as a lack of focus. I maintain for you, it's none of those things. It is a way physically that Kevin Holland mentally calms himself. He tries to keep things light. That's hard to do. That's a real skill. Now, whether you have to do that by making faces and speaking to the opponent, or you can just work on it in visualization ahead of time, or you had enough experience, it's a very real thing. So when Kevin's doing that, I only submit for you guys, he is not trying to be disrespectful in the least. In fact, it has nothing to do with his opponent. He is speaking and doing those things as a way of calming and reminding himself, I need to be in this moment. I need to fight this position. I need to maintain my energy. I need to keep my stress level low. All right. Okay, fine. But one bad thing about Kevin Holland, as I see it, is just his philosophy towards the sport. I have seen Kevin lose fights, but I've only seen him lose fights for one reason. It was not because he got caught or knocked down or overwhelmed anywhere with strikes and punches. He's plenty tough. It's not because he got fatigued. I don't even believe it's because he didn't have the skills to deal with his opponents. I believe Kevin cooperates. He cooperates with his opponent. Kevin loves jiu-jitsu. He loves to be on his back. He believes in it. And statistically speaking, he's simply wrong. Guys do not submit other guys from their back. I realize that's a broad stroke, but Kevin is fighting in meaningful spots on the card. Somebody submitting another guy from his back, right there, you have well over 90% of failure in front of that idea. But for a co-main event or a main event, it is stunningly low. You're talking about 1%. Now, the only reason I bring that to you is Kevin was willing to go to that position because he loved and believed in his craft so much. But as the time wears down and the round comes to a conclusion, rinse and repeat, do it again, the judges are looking at that position, of which negatively Kevin's in. But I don't think it's because he couldn't stop those takedowns. I think he, to some extent, played along. Hey, I want to take you to the ground. Hey, great, I want to be on the ground. And I bring that because Kevin doesn't fully agree with me and believes it is a physical issue that is putting in there, to the point that he went out to the AKA and trained specifically with Daniel Cormier on wrestling, and more specifically wrestling defense. Now, that's great. That's great. Sometimes to change something physically can help you mentally. Sometimes changing mentally can help you physically. He went in the order of physical to fix the mental. I also think Kevin Holland could lay in bed at night and just focus and visualize on his own career, not be so cooperative, change his opinion that good things are going to happen from being on bottom, and get a good result. Either way, my point remains the same, which is I want to see what that is. I want to see what improvements there were. I'm still cheering for Kevin Holland. I'm cheering that he gets a hold of this thing. I like the idea that he is moving weight classes. I like the idea, and you go back and look at the guys that beat Kevin Holland, by the way. I mean, we knew that those were good guys at the time, but it's like a fine wine. Those losses look a little better over time, right? So Kevin doesn't have real problems here. These are real small, what we're talking about, tweaking and changing, but I want to see if he can do it. Because Daukaus, at the same time, now has the blueprint. That was not an advantage that Kevin's first 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 opponents had. There was not a blueprint. There was not an understanding of the way the enemy functions and works. Now there is. So I'm pretty confident in telling you guys that Daukaus is going to do just enough on his feet to try to get to the clinch, to try to drag him down to the mat. That would make sense. Daukaus is a damn good fighter himself, who, by the way, does it help you? I'm asking a question, but does it help you when your brother's also a badass? His brother, just to remind you, that other Daukaus, the heavyweight, they're brothers. The heavyweight that just had a big premier win over the weekend, that heavyweight that 2 days later got signed to fight Derek Lewis later this year. Big deal, right? You can get momentum. You can start to help each other. The Paul brothers, who are legit tough guys, even though that bothers you guys, they're legitimately tough guys, but they also have a power from each other. They have a real positive outlook, surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded. So having a brother with the same goals, your brother's a badass, you're a badass, you both make it to the biggest organization, you both make it to beautiful spots on the card. I think that it helps. I didn't have that advantage, but I had close. I had teammates that I was very close with, who I trained with each day. You know, I'm convinced in life, you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. I believe that. So when you start surrounding yourself all within the same household, I think that there's a real advantage here. And I don't want to dismiss Kyle at all. While I'm picking Holland, I will tell you, I'm not bullish on that. I'm not fully sticking the curse on Kevin Holland. I have just seen things from Kevin Holland, if he can get in line with the unified rules and a worst case scenario. And a worst case scenario isn't all that bad. Worst case scenario just means you're out there for the duration of the evening. It's to be expected, right? There's only a couple of possible outcomes. Kevin Holland looks for the finish every time. Mike Tyson said, and Mike Tyson is right, one of the few times, but he was right about this: if you look for the finish, you will not win a decision. Now, when Mike said that, he was speaking specifically to the fact that if you look for a knockout in boxing and you use all that energy, should you not get it and the night goes to its duration, you're not going to have enough left to have won enough rounds. That's specifically what Mike was speaking to. I realize that that's not what Kevin's coming from. Not that same power. Not that same seek and destroy mentality that's going to empty the gas tank. But it is all the same not being cognizant of the fact that should I not get the finish I'm looking for, I'm going to have to turn to the judges. And the judges are largely going to look at positioning. Largely. I know that the rule says damage. I agree. But to do damage, a byproduct of damage is good positioning. Being on top is always better than being on bottom. Kevin agrees. Kevin has recognized this. We have evidence of that. From him going out to San Jose, seeking out the champ, and working one-on-one with him. Question, right? A lot of times if you go to change something, it doesn't work out well for a fighter. However, if you're going to fix something that's a negative, I think only positive things can happen for a fighter. We got a good fight here. Gave you a whole breakdown on Kevin Holland. In all fairness, I'm still becoming familiar with Kyle Daukaus. I have seen him fight. I saw his record. He's plenty aggressive. He's a lot like his brother. But for now, the curse goes with Kevin Holland.